Hi you guys, I'm going to talk about ECV today, which is external cephalic version for when babies are breech. What is a breech baby? So a breech baby is when the baby is head up at term, when the baby's supposed to be head down to exit the vagina. So what happened to me in my third pregnancy when Eden was about ready to come out, I went to my 36-week appointment and my midwife felt a really hard ball just below my breasts and was like, I don't think those are feet or a bum or anything. I think that's her head or his head, because they didn't know what gender it was. And so I kind of started to freak out because I had had 2 vaginal natural births before. It just something that didn't even cross my mind. So from there, my midwife suggested I do an ECV, which is an external cephalic version, and that's where they actually manually put their hands on you and turn the baby. So they don't put their hands up inside you, so it's not internal, it's external. So they put their hands on the outside of you and manipulate the baby down to head down position, and then generally they stay that way. So I kind of just wanted to tell you guys a little bit about my experience, just because when I was going through it, I didn't really have a lot of resources, and I think it's something that is a really useful tool for women, because most breech babies, first of all, don't go diagnosed and then they end up in emergency C-section, and then the babies who are identified breech automatically just get scheduled for a C-section, and women aren't given a choice for this procedure. And I think if more women knew about it, then a lot of other women would choose to do it as well. So I kind of just wanted to tell you a little bit about what happened to me. So I think it was about 36 weeks where I was diagnosed breech. And so my midwife, I got really lucky, was actually a practitioner for ECVs. So she had done the training, because there's a certain amount of training that's involved in doing this procedure, and she was qualified to do it. Now, not a lot of people are, because Western medicine is getting really away from the natural birth approach, which is super scary. And then a lot of doctors actually don't even deliver breech anymore. So a lot of OBs, they won't even deliver a baby breech. And if you do your research, which I did because I was obsessed with this for about a month or 2 months while I was stressing out about having a vaginal birth, having a C-section and delivering a breech baby are actually equal in risk to mom and to baby. So, but that's not what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about ECV. So basically what happened with me is I decided to go ahead with the procedure, and my midwife thought it was best that I got the procedure done at about 37 weeks, because at 37 weeks, they still feel like baby's small enough to turn. And then once they get stuck in that head down position, they can't turn back. Sometimes if you wait too long, so at 39, 40 weeks, they actually think the baby's gained an extra additional 1 or 2 pounds, and it makes it more difficult to turn. So you kind of want to get that sweet spot. So if it does happen to you, you don't want to wait too long, and you want to get your hands on a practitioner who can do it. So my team consisted of a midwife and an OB. There was an OB at Oakville Hospital who was willing to do the procedure with my midwife, because it typically takes 4 hands, so 2 people. So I decided to go ahead with the procedure. I went in about 37 and a half weeks maybe, and had a procedure that I did not realize was going to be so painful. I know in other countries, especially in Europe, they actually give women medication, but in Canada that they don't. So depending on where you live, there's different protocols I guess they have to follow. So for me, I had to be attached to an IV because in case of emergency, baby's in distress, something happens to me, they actually rush you into an emergency C-section. So there was that risk. However, the risk is literally like 0.005%. So I try not to let that fear me, even though the OB before the procedure was like, just to let you know, there's a risk of C-section and I need you to be okay with that. And I was like, yeah, I'm not okay with that. So turn this baby and it's coming out of my vagina. But she and then my midwife in the back's like, it's okay, Alicia, it's gonna be fine. You're not gonna have a C-section. So, so anyways, so they actually try 3 attempts. So the first time they attempted, I was like, oh my goodness. So it's really painful. They basically put their hands down deep into your spine. at 9 months pregnant, and then basically take their hands and turn the baby. But you have 4 hands on you, so they grab the head, they identify where the bum is, and they kind of do like that clockwise or counterclockwise motion. I think they try to move the baby backwards first, or anyways, they have a certain way of doing it. But the first time the baby ducked, so her head kind of like went like that away from the practitioner's hands, and you're allowed 3 attempts in one procedure. And if it doesn't work in those 3 attempts, you can go back. So if you have a failed ECV, you can go back. So don't give up even if your first ECV attempt wasn't successful. So for me, I got really, really lucky and she listened. So the second time, I really, really tried to just breathe, and I spoke to her and I said, come on, baby. I said, turn for mommy. And she did. So I definitely think the procedure is worth it. It's a little scary, it's a little intimidating, but if a vaginal birth is something that's really, really important to you, and you want to avoid that major abdominal surgery, like a C-section, which in my case I did, I think it's worth giving it a go. Would I do it again? Probably. Right after it, I was like, hell no. It is extremely, extremely painful. You're not given any medication. But I think like birth, you kind of have to just be mentally tough, and believe in yourself and manifest and believe that the baby will turn. And to be honest, I think that I'm not sure if the baby would have turned on her own. Some people of the like natural birth kind of like mindset, they believe that baby would have turned, let's say come 39 or 40 weeks. But from like 36 weeks to 38 weeks to when I had the procedure, she was still breech. So I wasn't really willing to risk it. I didn't want to go into labor, the baby still being breech. So I chose to get the procedure done. So I think that's all I have to tell you guys about that. I'm willing to take any questions if you guys have any, or just send me a direct message. I know I did have some women reach out to me, like even from England and different countries about, would you do the procedure again? And I totally would. Right after it, I was a little bit in shock. I didn't expect it to be so painful. I think emotionally painful too, just because you're kind of worried about the baby, even though it's totally safe. You're worried about if the worst case happens, and you're worried that it's going to fail. So I think going in with like a really, really laid back a mindset, thinking and believing that it will work for you, I think it will. Just like anything else, drink lots of water, practice your breathing, be in really, really good physical and mental place before you go in, and have a supportive team with you. My husband was with me, held my hand. He knows me pretty well, so he just looked at me with those eyes and basically said, you can do this, the baby will turn. And my biggest advice for it is just relax. Let your body do the work, right? Like, for some reason she was head up. I don't know why, but with the help of these practitioners, they turned her. So one more thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the ECV, is that in health, in all aspects of your health these days, you really, really have to advocate for yourself. You can't just get one doctor's opinion. Like, you have to go get 3 or 4 different doctors' opinions, right? Like, there's so much information out there and false information about things that you really, really need to do your research. So when it came to ECV, there was a couple doctors at the hospital, or OBs, who were willing to do it in, like with my midwife. And so I had gone to the hospital, and I met with this one OB, and she was like, okay, we're gonna schedule your appointment on this day. And it was about at like 39 weeks. And based on all the research I had done, I was like, no, that's too late. And she's like, no, like, I think it's best that we do it then. And she goes, and then we'll schedule you on this day for your C-section. And I looked at her and I said, I thought the point of this was that we were going to have a successful ECV, hopefully, and that the goal here would be to deliver vaginally. Like, you're an OB. Like, is that not what you want for women? And in this case, it wasn't what she wanted. And I was really, really upset and bothered, just that this was the type of healthcare practitioner that I was dealing with. And so I was like, you know what? Thank you for your time. I'll see you later. Not. I called my husband right away, and I was like, crying. I was like, I had such a negative experience. I was like, I never want to see that doctor again. I said, I don't trust her. I said, I don't believe in the way she practices. And I said, I need to get another OB who does this procedure. And so I called my midwife, talked to her, told her the exact same thing. And she's like, okay, let me see if the other OB at the hospital will do it. Anyways, she called the other OB, and the OB was a lot better. I met with her, liked her attitude, liked her vibe, and was like, we can do this. And I was on board. But it just goes to show you that you really have to trust your gut. And if something doesn't feel right, I think in all aspects of your life, right? Like if something doesn't feel right, like you're not going to continue going on with it. And so you have to like respect yourself and listen to that. And I'm getting better at that, like with that as I get older. But especially in terms of your health, right? Like if you don't like your doctor, get a new doctor, right? Like if you don't like your friends, like get new friends, right? So that's kind of what I did. And it goes back to like the message that I'm trying to get across is like really have to advocate for your health. And even though this OB was like, yeah, I do ECVs, like, no, you don't, because your attitude about them isn't what women need. Like your negative attitude and your mindset of fearing women into a C-section when all they want is to have a traditional like way of birth, like no. So yeah, like seek out the right practitioners. Don't give up. If the practitioners aren't at that hospital or aren't at that clinic, look at a new hospital. At one point I thought I had to maybe go to Cambridge, and I was really up for anything that would kind of give me what I wanted. So with all that being said, if you're concerned about the baby, which of course every mother would be, they monitor the baby the whole time. So you have nothing on your tummy, but at every stage. So it was really cool. So like the midwife was on one side of me. Ryan was like at my head type thing, like kind of like that. And then the OB was on the other side of me with the ultrasound and heart rate monitor. And basically what happened was every time they kind of paused and the baby in a new position, the OB would grab the ultrasound and put it on my belly and make sure that heart rate hadn't changed. So the baby is monitored the whole time. And incredible enough to believe, the heart rate of the baby didn't change at all. So like, I can't remember the heart rate, but let's say it was 150. Like it was 150 at the beginning and it was 150 at the end. So it was like she was completely happy the whole time. And it's actually common. They say that babies don't even they're not really fazed by it, which it's hard to believe. I'm sure they are in ways that we can't even identify in today's medicine. So yeah, I was actually really impressed with both my midwife and the OB, but I'm really thankful for the OB who is still practicing this procedure to help women like me who really wanted a vaginal birth. And then of course my midwife, who is phenomenal. Most midwives are. I just love them. And they really advocate for what women want, despite what that is. So yeah, I'm really also glad I got the procedure done, because I had her a week later, like literally 7 days later. I prayed and crossed my fingers and did everything. Every time she moved, I was like, oh my God, don't move. And super paranoid. But they monitored post-procedure. So I think I stayed there for about an hour after. And they made sure she was head down. I made the OB check like 3 times, like make sure her head's right down there. And she was, and she didn't move. And then a week later we met our little girl. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm gonna start to do a little bit more YouTube videos or little tips and tricks that I have stumbled upon in my motherhood journey. So I hope you enjoyed that.